In our last video, we learned how to graph equations on the TI-84 graphing calculator. But drawing the graph is only the beginning. Today, you'll learn how to move along the graph using the trace function. You'll be able to read exact coordinates, evaluate functions at specific x values, and quickly answer questions that would otherwise require a lot of algebra. Before we get started today, let's do a quick review on the basics of graphing. So first thing you want to do is make sure your plots are turned off. So if I go second, y equal, I look at my stat plots, make sure all of them are off. If any of them are on, I can turn them off manually, or I can press number 4, which will turn them all off at the same time. Then we'll go to y equals. Let's just enter a simple equation. Let's say 2.5x raised to the second power. I can use the caret key with the 2, or I can go x squared. Okay, and I'm going to say plus 3 here. So now our function is entered into the calculator, and I can press the graph key to view this. If the graph does not fall within the window properly, you can go to Window, and you can choose the minimum x and y values and the maximum x and y values so that the graph will appear as you like. A quick way to assume a standard condition is hit zoom and go down to number 6, which is zoom standard. And this will automatically set it at the positive and negative 10 for both the x and y axis. In today's video, let's focus on the trace key. Okay, this is probably the feature that students use the most. So let's get started by entering a simple quadratic equation. So let's go x squared minus 4x plus 3. Okay, let's graph it. So let's press the trace key here. This places the cursor on the graph. I can use my left and right arrow keys to move along the graph. If you notice, the x and y values change as we move. So the calculator is updating as we're moving along the curve. So if I wanted to know the value of x where y is equal to 0, I can get an approximate value. Okay, same thing on the other side. So if I move across, I get again an approximate value again. So notice that the cursor is moving not randomly, but in increments of about 0.15 or so. So what if I needed to know what is the y value when x equals 2? Well, I could cursor to where x equals 2, and I get an approximate y value. Again, this is an estimate. To make it more exact, we can do something. We can zoom in. So I'm just going to go to zoom number 2, and my cursor's in a good location. I'm going to press enter, and now I can zoom in. So I have a much clearer view where the graph is crossing the x-axis. And if I want a value of 2, I can get much closer because when I zoom in, the scale becomes different, and I'm able to get more close to the correct answer. So if I want to go to where it's crossing the axis For example, where y equals 0, that's approximately 1. That's one way of using the zoom function. However, there are some tricks here. I'm going to go back to the original graph. So I'm going to hit zoom 6. So it looks more like this again. If I know a certain value that I'm looking for, and I want it to be more exact, I can just simply hit the trace key and then enter a number. For example, if I hit 5, press enter, it's going to say at x equals 5, then y equals 8. Okay, so if I were to say 1 and press enter, okay, so it's crossing the x-axis where x equals 1. And it appears to be crossing at 3. Well, we can check that by hitting 3 and press enter. And sure enough, my values for x for this quadratic equation will be positive 3 and positive 1. So we can do that just by using the graph here. And likewise, we could enter other numbers like, let's say, negative 3. And see, negative 3 doesn't appear on the graph. So we would have to change some of our settings. So it says y is equal to 24. So let's go to Window. Let's go to Y max. Let's make it 25. And now if I go trace and go negative 3, so now I can see where it's at. So it's just real easy just to press a number and find the exact location without having to scroll. So that's a neat trick that students love, and oftentimes they're not shown this. Another useful tool is to evaluate a function is to use second trace, which is calculator, and choosing value. It does basically the same thing that trace did, except it takes you directly to the x equals. So if I wanted, like, what is the value for x equals 6? I know the answer is 15. So the calculator instantly returns the value. So should I use trace or should I use the value command? Well, trace is useful for exploring and looking around. While if I just need a value quickly, then the value, which is second trace or calc, is a more direct way of accomplishing the same thing. What if I have multiple graphs? So let's clear this and let's make graph 1 x squared. Okay. And let's say the second graph is 2x plus 3. Graph. Okay, I'm going to go back and go to my standard zoom. And let's press the trace key again. Okay, so if I'm moving, notice I'm moving on the blue line. All right, if I want to get to the red line, I hit the up or down arrows, and that takes me to the second line. And notice that the equation is written so you know which one you're on at all times. So if I'm at x equals 0.9, if I go up to the next one, x is still at 0.9, so I know the value of y for both functions at x equals 0.9. So I can switch easily between the equations. Many students never discovered this function on their own, and I can have as many y's as I like, and I can just instantly move between them by using arrow keys. And remember, if I want to hide a function, for example, if I want to hide the second function here, I can put my cursor on the equal sign and press enter. Then when I go to graph, that function is now hidden. So I'm only showing 1. And to turn it back on, I go back and toggle it back on. And now we're back to showing 2 graphs again. Now you know how to move around a graph and evaluate functions anywhere on the curve. In the next video, we'll go one step further and let the TI-84 automatically find important points such as zeros, minimums, maximums, and points of intersection, features that can save you a tremendous amount of time on homework and exams. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to check out other lessons on this channel. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.